after cases coming to the U.S. Supreme Court because of, at that time, the Vietnam War. And guys didn't want to be in the war, and they were going to Canada, and they were claiming conscience as objector. The courts prior to that had ruled that you had to be part of a specific religious creed or recognized denomination that had a conscience of objection. You had to be a Quaker or whatever. And that was the problem with Sergeant York in World War I. The greatest, most decorated war hero in World War I belonged to a church that didn't believe in fighting. But because he couldn't show that that was the creed of the denomination, they would not allow him to be a conscience objector. And so he was made a soldier and had to learn how to shoot a gun. And again, he became the most decorated war hero as a conscience objector.
Well, you said learn how to shoot a gun. He knew how to shoot a gun very well.
That's true.
Because before he had gotten saved, he was kind of this reckless heathen. And actually, great movie, Sergeant York. You can, I was going to say you can watch that. I don't know really the best way for you to get it, but it's really great. Old Gary Cooper, I think.
Gary Cooper
is the guy that did a great movie.
True story, and that's why watching the actual Sergeant York, played by Gary Cooper, said that was a very, very, very accurate movie. Hollywood doesn't often do that. That's one for watching just from American history standpoint. But he was not given that position because he wasn't part of a denomination that had that belief. But in the 60s, the court started saying, no, that's really not the right definition. And the court took a position that said, whatever you believe so strongly that it affects the way you behave, that is religion. Now, if you take that definition...
Man, I think of a lot of things we don't usually think of as religion.
That's right.
But that actually is very accurate, because even as you talk about a worldview is the way in which you see the world, and your religion is what determines your worldview, and your religion is really what you value, and it's
environmentalism. Environmentalists certainly you would say that definitely.
It's whatever moral code or compass guides the life that you live.
Secularism is
yeah, whether it's humanism or secularism or
sexual deviancy. I mean, now they define their world based on their sexual proclivity.
That's right. And so the actual question is not whether it's religious or not. The question is how biblical is it? And that becomes your standard because everybody's religious in some way. They serve some religion, and they have a religious creed, whether it be LGBT, whether it be whatever. And that's why the left is absolutely religious. And we think of them as secular. Well, secularism is a religion. It's something they believe so strongly, it motivates the way they behave. So therefore, if they were conscious of the objector as a secularist, the court would say that's your religious belief, and we recognize that as a secularist, that's your religion. So we have this working definition that is false, and because of that, we don't recognize that there are all these competing religious movements out there, including the left. That the left, what we call the progressives, what we call the liberal Democrats, what we call whatever, even liberal Republicans, the left, the progressives, however you want to define it, that is a religious movement. They have religious beliefs, religious convictions. They have their own creeds. They have their own dogmas. They have their own theology, and it motivates what they do. And when you understand that, then it's a whole lot easier to understand how the world around you works. When you understand that you are dealing with religions all around you, the question is whether or not they're biblical. In our case, on this program, we try to do biblical stuff and look at it from a biblical viewpoint, but we are talking about religious stuff here. And so David Kupelian, who is one of the editors at WorldNet Daily, just did a book on the snapping of the American mind. But we saw an article he did talking about the religion of the left and how that religion works out when it comes to biblical type issues, and thought, that would be a great topic to cover, because most people don't think of the left as having a religion. They could think of them as having no religion. That's why at the Democratic convention last time, they voted God out of the platform, but that's their religion. That is a religious view that they're holding. So David Kupelian has a great perspective on what the religion of the left looks like.
Stay with us, folks. David Kupelian when we return here on Wall Builders Live. Have you noticed the vacuum of leadership in America? We're looking around for leaders of principle to step up, and too often, no one is there. God is raising up a generation of young leaders with a passion for impacting the world around them. They're crying out for the mentorship and leadership training they need. Patriot Academy was created to meet that need. Patriot Academy graduates now serve in state capitals around America, in the halls of Congress, in business, in the film industry, in the pulpit, in every area of the culture. They're leading effectively and impacting the world around them. Patriot Academy is now expanding across the nation, and now's your chance to experience this life-changing week that trains champions to change the world. Visit patriotacademy.com for dates and locations. Our core program is still for young leaders 16 to 25 years old, but we also now have a citizen track for adults. So visit the website today to learn more. Help us fill the void of leadership in America. Join us in training champions to change the world at patriotacademy.com.
Let the torch of freedom
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and the culture. This is Well Builders Live. Thanks for staying with us. Be sure and visit the website, wellbuilderslive.com today. David Kupelian is with us. He's the managing editor of WorldNet Daily, vice president there as well, and author of The Snapping of the American Mind. David, thanks for coming on, bro.
Hey, Rick, glad to be with you.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all you guys do as well. And thanks for taking the approach to what's happening in the culture. You've connected some dots here that we've kind of batted around a little bit here, but you brought them together really well. And the idea that the left just loves violating the Ten Commandments, and virtually every one of their policies does exactly that. How did you come to that conclusion, and how do we speak that out there and teach that without people saying, "Oh, you're just throwing the Bible at me"?
Right. Well, I first kind of broached the subject in the Snapping of the American Mind, just briefly, about the idea that, because I think this is something people have never really thought of before. We think of politics in political terms, left, right, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, policies, do we want socialized medicine? Do we want wealth redistribution? But if you look more deeply, when I talk about the left in this article, which, by the way, anybody can read it online, is called How the Left Revels in Violating the Ten Commandments. It is online. That the left is it's a spiritual force. It's not just, it's almost like we talk in code. Well, there's, you can turn left, right, they're morally equivalent. This is more like up and down. The left, if you think about it, it is based on stealing. The left, everything is about taking from one person and giving to somebody else and accumulating power from that. It is about adultery. When I say the left, I'm talking not just, the Democratic Party kind of thing, but the cultural left, which gave us the sexual revolution in the 1960s, the whole LGBT movement. All of what we call the sexual revolution or sexual anarchy today is a gift to us from the left.
So it's all a movement towards no standards, anything goes, whatever feels
there
good.
There is no
back
God,
to that.
There's no right and wrong, there's no morality, it's all just a bunch of old superstitious nonsense meant to oppress people. And so what you have then is basically a violation of
man.
commandment, thou shalt not
Come
commit
on.
adultery, which means you confine sex to the sacred bond of marriage between a man and a woman. You bring children into the world. It's the oldest institution of mankind. When you break that, all these different ways, there's a consequence. There's a Pandora's box of bad stuff that happens. And I'm saying the whole sexual revolution was given to us by the left, the cultural left. And you can go down the line. Thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not commit murder, if you wish. Okay, well, aside from the fact that the left, in its, utopian, maniacal movement of the 20th century ended up killing, somewhere between 100 and 200 million people, just if you look at abortion, we have 3,000 abortions every day in America. These are little human babies, and somehow the left, which gave us legalized abortion, is comfortable with this. They have all the ideas and the rationalizations, the women's right and the women's body and all this stuff. But meanwhile, it is death. You are killing little human babies. And you can go down the line, and in the article, I go through all 10 commandments, and I show very specifically and very matter-of-factly. I'm not judging. I'm not like damning, oh, you all are going to hell. I'm saying that I'm a journalist. This is what they're doing. Okay, right there. In fact, I start with the 10th commandment, which is, thou shalt not covet, and I say that Winston Churchill, the great British leader, describes socialism as, quote, the gospel of envy. It is like a religion that is literally based on envy and covetousness.
Yeah.
And so it's not just violating the 10th commandment, it is repudiating, it is rejecting the 10th commandment. And the deeper point, you said, Rick, how do we do this without sounding like we're, stuffing the Bible down people's throats? I don't think that you have to be a Christian or a Jew to appreciate the 10 commandments and to think, yeah, let's say I'm an atheist, but it's still not a good idea to murder people,
right,
to steal other people's stuff, to commit adultery with other people's wives, and down the line. These sound like pretty universal, common sense values that any 5-year-old should be able to understand, whether they come from a religious background or not. And yet, we have this entire worldview of what we call the political and cultural left, which is, it's a little shocking even to be talking about it, but it is dependent on violating all of the 10 commandments. And if people, they're having a hard time digesting this as, whoa, that sounds really radical, go read the article, How the Left Rebels in Violating the 10 Commandments. I go one by one. You can go as slow as you want and say, yeah, that's actually true. They do that. That is what, and you can argue that, well, everybody does those things, but, there is a special place. As I said, the sexual revolution is a product entirely of the left. Abortion was given to us by the left and so forth. So they are particularly complicit in this wonderful utopian gift they think they're giving us, which is actually dependent on pulling us away from our higher nature, our more noble nature, and down toward the lower side, as I say, envy, lust, greed, all the lower attributes of human nature that people that are, we're all born in sin, so we have these aspects to our nature. That is what they glorify and institutionalize in the left. It's shocking, but hey, I'm just the messenger here.
Yeah, no, and like you said, it's just it's just a clear factual analysis of, regardless of what your faith may be, you look at here's 10 guidelines that God gave us that worked really well when we implemented them, and here's where the left has violated every one of them and moved us to a society that's the opposite of each of those things, whether it's, bearing false witness or, you go right down the line in the article. And certainly, like you said, all of socialism is about violating the 10th commandment and the 8th commandment, stealing and looking at you and saying, hey, your insurance is better than mine. I want what you've got, and therefore I'm going to use government to take from you to give to me and bring us down to the lowest common denominator. So it's a masterful analysis of each of those things. And as you mentioned, it's online, WMD.com, or you can just search How the Left Rebels and Violating the 10 Commandments. And I love your approach. I think it's kind of a, people can take a Ben Franklin approach to this. I mean, he wasn't a Christian, but he certainly believed in God. But even if you don't believe in God, he was saying, look, this just simply works. You follow these rules and these guidelines, and society benefits. That's a pretty rational approach.
Yes, that's right. And if you just have a minute for me just to expand on a point.
Yeah, sure.
This is easy to say, oh, yeah, the left, they're breaking the 10 Commandments and so forth. The really larger point that's really more central to our lives, and this is the theme of the snapping of the American mind, is that the left is not only doing this, okay, but the left is, when I say the left, I mean the hard left, not your sister who wants to make guns illegal because she doesn't want little kids to be killed by guns. That's just not understanding the consequences of certain policies. I'm talking the hard atheistic left that has, taken over most of our institutions. Rick, they are mad, and as in insane.
Yeah.
And the point that I'm making in this, and I document this with all kinds of peer-reviewed research and 400 endnotes, it's a whole prosecutorial indictment, the snapping of the American mind. I show that not only is the left mad, they are driving the rest of America. I'm talking the good people, the good, decent, Christian, patriotic Americans, driving them completely over the edge. I'm talking about into drug addiction, into every type of addiction, food addiction, pornography, all the rest of it, into suicide, mental illness, depression, You have 1 in 4 middle-aged women right now are taking antidepressants. Okay, you have 110 million Americans with sexually transmitted diseases. The amount of individual pathology and family breakdown and misery and suffering, which we don't hear about. This isn't like headline news. We hear about the latest stuff that, Obama did or whatever in the presidential race. But I'm connecting the dots, as you said in the beginning, between the craziness of the left, including the fact that it not only can't operate, it can't even exist without violating all the Ten Commandments. And I'm showing that has a consequence when that is who is ruling our government and our culture and our courts and our entertainment and news media and all that. We are children of God. We are created with a conscience. There is good and evil, and they're both trying to recruit us, if I can put it that way. They're both pulling us toward them. And the left is such a toxic influence. It is driving people crazy into all the addictions, all the misuse, the 50 million people taking mood-altering psychiatric drugs, the 60 million people abusing alcohol, the 25 million taking illegal drugs. I mean, that sounds like all the grown-ups are addicted to something or other. It is because we are being pushed. We were once a Judeo-Christian nation. We are being seduced, pushed, intimidated into being such a conflicted, angry, unhappy, confusing culture because the left doesn't make sense. It's rebelling against God, rebelling against the Ten Commandments, against common sense, against the principles of the lessons of history, of the laws of economics. They put all that aside in favor of their crazy, basically rebellious utopian system, and it is driving good people crazy. And that's why in the Snapping of the American Mind, the whole part of the book, the last 3 chapters, is about what can we do to overcome this. And there are many things on the macro level and on the family level, the individual level, that we can and really must do to hold on to our sanity and hold on to our country. So ultimately, I'm into redemption, into healing, and that's what the book is about ultimately.
Right. It's saying how do we respond to it? Sitting back and doing nothing is the one thing we cannot do because, like you said, I mean, the lunacy of the left is not just going to take them down. They're taking us with them and destroying the nation. And when we sit back and basically step out of the arenas of leadership in business and politics and government for sure and all these different areas, we leave it to the left that is hungry to have that leadership, that craves that power. And they have led us, very close to going right off the cliff. But you give the very reasons why. It's a concentrated attack at the very foundational principles that come from these Ten Commandments that our nation was built upon, that give us a great society when we follow them, and that destroy our society when we ignore them and completely violate them. And unfortunately, we don't have time to get into the solutions, so we're going to have to get you back. But folks can read the book and learn those solutions as well, and the many things that we talk about here on Wall Builders. But make sure you get check out the book. It's called The Snapping of the American Mind, and for a quick read, just to get an idea, and certainly share with your friends and family, get a copy of the article as well. And we'll have an easy link today at wallbuilderslive.com. David, great stuff. Really want to get you back and dive further into these things. But encourage folks to read the book.
Be glad to join you again. And the book is endorsed by David Barton.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, speaking of David Barton, stay with us, folks. When we come back from the break, we'll be with David Barton. Stay with us here on Wall Builders Live.
This is the Blaze Radio Network.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to Wall Builders Live. Thanks for staying with us. Back now with David and Tim Barton. And guys, man, this is right along the same lines of what Stephen McDowell has been sharing with us over the last year in terms of the,